Hello everyone, this is the last video we have for Research Method Lab. In this section, we're gonna talk about t-test and how to practice t-test in SPSS. Similar to correlation analysis, t-tests are also a kind of inferential statistics and different from correlation analysis that with two continuous variables. For t-test, we have one continuous variable and another categorical variable. So the purpose of the t-test is to compare the numerical data of two groups, or the means of two groups. There are two kinds of t-test. The first one is independent sample t-test, and the second type is the paired samples t-test. We're gonna talk about the difference between the two kinds of t-test later. And the t-test will usually give us a t-value. And the larger the t-value, the greater the difference in means between the two groups or two conditions. Similar to most statistical tests, t-test also produces a p-value. So remember that p-values tell us whether the result is statistically significant or it's just due to chance. So, for the independent sample t-test, it compares the averages of two separate groups of people. So one example we have here is that compare the average liking of scary movies between male versus female students. So if we find a statistically significant result, which means our p-values are below 0.05 or below 0.01, there is a gender difference exist between males versus females on their love for scary movies. And if we find that our p-value is greater than 0.05, we just find that difference by chance. There is no significant difference between males and females in terms of their liking of scary movies. On the other hand, the paired sample t-test compares participants' responses in one condition to their responses in another condition. So unlike independent sample t-test, which compares two groups of people, like we just say, male versus female, the paired sample t-test compare two conditions in the same person. So example here is participants' liking of Pepsi versus Coke. So if you have watched the correlation analysis SPSS demonstration video I produced, you will find out that we have done a correlation test between liking of Pepsi and the liking of Coke. Why we do that? Because those are two continuous variables. However, for a paired sample t-test, you will have one variable that is condition. One means Pepsi, two means Coke. That's an example. And you will have another variable that's the liking of this drink. 0 to 100. In this case, you can compare the like of Pepsi versus the like of Coke, and to test if there is a statistically significant mean differences, or that differences are due to chance. So now, let's move on to SPSS demonstration. Hello again. We're still using the same data and to do a independent samples t-test. So remember that the independent samples t-test is comparing two different groups of people in terms of a continuous variable. So in this case, I am going to compare people who like cow versus people who do not like cow in terms of their loving of running and jogging. So my research hypothesis will be probably those who like cow will enjoy running more. And my null hypothesis in this case will be there is no difference between those who like cow and those who do not like cow in terms of running. So to run the analysis, first thing is to check the values in this categorical data. As we can see here, 1 equals yes, 2 equals no. It's very important to remember that because we're going to use it. And it's question number 9. And for the continuous variable running, it's question number 16. And it's first question of number 16. So analyze, compare means, independent samples t-test. Here it is. So this is question number 16, which is solving for running or jogging. It's our test variable, so we should put it here. And we have the categorical variable to be the grouping variable. So after you move that question number 9 from left side to this right side, you're going to define groups. That's why I say you should remember the representations of each group. So group 1 will be 1, group 2 will be 2. Options, yeah, just keep it the same and click OK. Here is the result of our t-test. So first is the descriptive statistics. So as we can see here, among the 22 students we have, among the 22 participants we have, 10 of them like cow, 12 of them do not like cow. And the mean scores for running, jogging, loving is 16.4 for those who like it and 60 for those who don't like it. So we can see that I feel that probably those who like cow would enjoy running more than those who don't like cow. So to test that intuition, we need to do independent samples t-test. So the first thing you see is the Levene's test for equality of variances. We didn't introduce the concept of variances in our descriptive statistics session, but you can just understand it as an extension of standard deviation, because the variance is actually the square of standard deviation. So the variance is also the spread of the data set, or the distribution of each point in this data set. So we do want the variances for each group, those who like cow versus those who don't like cow, they have the same variances. So that's a prerequisite to conduct independent sample t-test. So we do this test of equality of variances, and we find a significance value, which is a p-value equals 0.58. Oh, 0.59, because if it's 2 digits. So we fail to reject the null hypothesis, which means there is no difference in variances between the two groups, which is a good thing. So equal variances is assumed. So we read this first line. If we find a significance value here below 0.05, we need to read this second line. So equal variances not assumed. But for now, we just read this first line. T-value 0.25, 0.26. I would say it's a small t-value, but there is no rule of thumb for t-values, so it's unlike our value. The t-value can be as high as possible. And there is the degrees of freedom. So you need to report this in your lab report when you report the results of independent samples t-test. And then we have the significance value, which is the p-value is 0.80. It's above 0.05. So we fail to reject the null hypothesis. There is no difference between those who like cow versus those who do not like cow in terms of running and jogging. So after we conduct the analysis, the next thing to do is to save your results. I know that many of you are using your own laptop, use desktop, so you can just, and your SPSS has already been installed, so you can just save it. Click here, save it as an output, and as long as you have SPSS, you can just open it whenever you want. However, if you are using a school computer, so that, for example, the computers in the lab rooms for them, you will need to export this result as a PDF or as a Word document. So, and then you can email it to yourself to save this result for your future needs. So file, export, Word document is fine. PDF is also fine, whatever you like. Click OK and then email it to yourself. Okay, that's it.